Hello, everyone, and welcome to our monthly edition of CPA Business Breakthroughs. It's me, I'm Dominique Molina, president and founder of the American Institute of Certified Tax Coaches. So glad you could join us today. I'm really excited about our guest today, not only because she has a really awesome title that's very catchy and memorable. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But someone that's very driven, very accomplished, and in fact, someone that I knew within a few moments of meeting this person that she was going to do extremely well as an entrepreneur and in business. So I'm happy to welcome Shauna Wekherlien, who is the tax goddess. Shauna, welcome to CPA Business Breakthroughs.
Hello, welcome and thank you for having me.
So tell us, you are in Arizona.
Correct. Yep, beautiful weather. It's, winter here, and I think we're at about 65 degrees, so can't argue very much.
No, can't complain about that too much. And I wanted to start off our conversation by talking about that, about the part of the country that you live in, because one of the biggest concerns I hear expressed by tax practitioners is that, where I live, there's just not a lot of people that are willing to pay premium fees for tax planning engagements. And I've heard this especially in Arizona. So before we dive into a lot of detail on that, can you just put that myth to rest? Are you seeing premium fees in the state of Arizona?
Absolutely. Whoever's saying that isn't doing it right. They need to learn from you how to do it right.
Thanks. Well, we'll talk about that in a few moments and kind of dispel some of those myths that are out there. For the most part, it's all up in here.
Yep.
But, well, Shauna, take us through your journey a little bit. What initially drew you into the tax business? Tell us about how you got your early start and, what was that like for you?
For sure. So I'll try and keep the story somewhat short. I'm definitely a storyteller by nature. I actually started off in astrophysics. I did not start in tax. And of course, that was 18-year-old Shauna, and all the cute boys were in the business college. So over to the business college I ended up going. And of course found out that finance and accounting were, when you've got a numbers brain, that works really well. So went through my undergrad, got my master's in taxation. When I realized that I only wanted to do tax and that was it, started working with KPMG and kind of did what I call the Goldilocks effect. KPMG was the really big firm, went to, at the time, American Express Tax and Business, which was a medium size, went down to a private size firm, and realized that with a personality like mine, I didn't quite fit into the cogwheel of working for somebody else. So 10 years ago, this past August, went out on my own, and so my firm, Tax Goddess Business Services, is now 10 years old, and we're a full-service firm, tax, bookkeeping, payroll, everything. So, and ended up in tax because at least when I finally realized that numbers were my good thing, accounting itself, was kind of this history background thing, and it was very boring. Tax was like playing chess. And so when I met you and heard about your program, I'm like, oh, no, this is a lady that understands the taxes are chess. I got to learn from this lady. I'm all over it. So.
Yeah, I was going to mention, as you're sharing your story and you're talking about being drawn more to the tax side because of the creativity part of it or the planning part of it, and you describe it as chess. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't see it the same way because it can be very historical in nature, where we get in a rut and we're focused so much on the past, on what's already happened, and being a historian in that process, a record keeper, if you will. But I know that this is something that you kind of discovered on your own in terms of identifying this as your niche and something that you were excited about. So take us through that process. When do you think that happened for you, and when did you find out, so to speak, about the creative side of tax?
For sure. So it actually happened in my senior year of college. As I said, I was an accounting finance double major undergrad, and I started off in science, which I loved, and I still do astronomy as a hobby now. But I got to my senior year in accounting, and the thought just kept rolling and rolling and rolling through my brain, going, all I'm doing is recording history. This is boring. I'm going back to the science college. I'm going to go be a PhD. This is ridiculous. Like, I just wasted 4 years of my time. This is terrible, right? And now, of course, I'm glad I didn't, because my family, my mother is actually a CPA, and so I went to her and said, well, so what am I supposed to do? I mean, this is terrible. And she said, no, 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 try a tax class. It's much more fun. And thank goodness for amazing teachers. The one teacher that I had in that basic tax class made it fun. Made it absolutely fun. You know, they talked about the strategy and the forethought, and so I think really that one teacher is the one that planted it in my brain that tax doesn't have to be about recording history. Tax can be about being proactive and helping people and thinking ahead of what's coming to try and get the best results. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that too, because I think teaching sometimes is a very thankless job. Do you know the name of your professor that helped turn things around for you?
I do not, which is terrible.
Oh, no.
But it was U of A, so anybody from Arizona, go to U of A.
Yes, U of A. I'm with you.
We can just say thank you to all the teachers that actually get it and make a difference in students' lives, because I'm almost getting the sense from you, Shauna, that this was like a pivotal point, turning point in your career and in your life, really, where you almost walked away from something that's turned out to be really enjoyable for you.
I love my life now, and I thank every day that was presented to me and that I took that opportunity, because I love my life and I love what I do, and I get to do everything that I love, and that none of that would have happened if I was a scientist in a lab. So.
Well, you're a tax scientist. That's what we can refer to.
Tax goddess.
Yes, the tax goddess. About that, I think you've been a genius in terms of the branding of your business, and you've adopted this identity, the tax goddess. How did that come about? Did somebody give you that name? Is it something that came to you?
So, well, good or bad, it actually came by complete accident. So, as I said, when I first started my business, I worked for the big firms, right? I always worked on other people's businesses. Well, so the day I decided to go out and work on my own, I went to the Arizona Corporation Commission to set up my entity, and the first thing the lady behind the counter said, well, what do you want your company name to be? And I stood there for 5 minutes and went, I don't know. I had no idea. So back then, we were called SW, Shauna Wekherlien Consulting. It was very clever, I thought, but there you go. So about 4 years into it, I was at a networking event, and I was chatting with the person behind me. We were all in line to do our 30-second commercial, and I wasn't quite paying attention to how close to the front of the line I really was. And I got tapped on the shoulder, and I turned around and had a microphone shoved in my face, and hi, everybody, my name is Shauna the Tax Goddess, and it just kind of rolled off the tongue, and every head in a 200-person room spun. And a very good friend of mine, who is a networking genius here in the Valley, came up to me after the meeting and said, that's it. That's your name. You're putting it on everything. You're branding everything. That's it, the Tax Goddess. And it has never failed to amaze me how well that name has stuck, because, on the back of my car, I've got a huge Tax Goddess logo, and I will have people call me 3 or 4 years later, yeah, I was driving past you, and you were driving down some road, and a Tax Goddess, and I just remembered the name, so it's really worked out very, very well, but I wish I could take marketing genius for that. It was more complete random, and I got stuck in a bind and just happened to come up with a good name, so.
That's amazing. Well, it's clear, even just from a few minutes of sharing with our audience here, that you do not fit the standard mold that exists for CPAs. And taking it all the way back from your college days and identifying sort of the opposite angle, if you will, of what people enjoy about tax, all the way through your branding, you definitely set yourself apart from the pack. And so it's clear that even in your name and how you speak about what you do, it helps people remember you. You're very memorable. You stand out. I wonder, going back to those early days, and you used the term tax goddess, talk to us about how you talked about your work. You know, you had the microphone thrown in your face. You introduced yourself as the tax goddess. How is it that you talk about your work back then? And then I'll ask you again, you know, how do you talk about it now? But how did you talk about it back then?
For sure. So at the beginning, honestly, I used tax goddess as almost like a joke. You know, it was a way to make taxes not so scary for people. Because I mean, as CPAs, we all know somebody gets a notice from the IRS, even if it really doesn't mean anything. You know, we know that, but the clients don't know that, and they'll walk into your office, you know, hands shaking, almost in tears, because they think that the IRS is going to come and throw them in jail. You know, so I use tax goddess as a way to kind of lighten the conversation. You know, it's definitely an icebreaker. You know, people don't kind of feel like they're coming into a place where they're going to get judged, you know, for having old tax debts or not having filed, you know, that kind of thing. And after a while, you know, you kind of start fitting into how you describe yourself. So now when I talk to people about being the tax goddess, you know, again, backup systems from the lovely Miss Dominique here, you know, now we can save people amazing amounts of money. You know, I actually feel like a goddess. You know, one of the stories, and you can hear it in my voice, one of the stories that really choked me up about now what I call fully coming into being a goddess, using part of your systems, Dominique, is that I actually was able to help a client pay for a cancer surgery for her 5-year-old son. Wow. And for me, that makes me feel like a rock star. That makes me feel like a true goddess, you know, because I'm really actually helping people. And for me, I mean, that's a part of what I want to do. I love helping people, and this is the way I get to use the numbers brain to do it. And that story gets me every time I say it, you know, and that client is just, yeah. So that makes me really happy. That one makes me actually truly feel like a goddess. So
that's so awesome. That's really an incredible story. I'm wondering, you know, how is it that you talk about that with that client, and how do they come to the realization that that's from the work that you do? I think one of the areas we struggle in terms of how we talk about our work is that people don't always understand the value of what we do or what goes into the work that we do, and it's really perceived that we're, you know, data entry people, if you will. So I imagine, just knowing you, that you talk very differently. So take us through a conversation either with your patient or your client that you
made. That's what I feel like, patients.
Yeah, kind of like a patient, but you know, your client that you're able to really make a life-changing difference for. You know, a lot of that comes from your ability to explain the value of what you're doing. How do you talk about that? When is it coming up in the conversation, and how do you present that information to people?
Absolutely. So, you know, the biggest, if I was going to pick one particular like tip or trick or however you want to phrase that, it's really about letting the client watch you, physically watch you, have the realization that you can save them however much money. So, you know, as you can see in the background, I have this huge desk, so clients are typically sitting on the other side, and, you know, they've come in, they've sent in advance, you know, their tax returns, their, you know, information, questions, all of the data. I've kind of gone through it, you know, probably 15, 20 minutes, just kind of looking over it, and it never ceases to amaze me. There's always something. There's always something. I have not yet had a single case where there was nothing. And so when the client actually comes in for their meeting, so they're sitting across the desk from me, and it's, you know, I've looked over all of your stuff, and I'm really excited because I think we're going to be able to save $10,000 for you off your taxes this year. And I want to get you that $10,000. I want to make sure that we can put that to better use. We can put that into your retirement plan. We can use that to pay for the surgery that's upcoming. You know, we can do whatever it's going to take. Because typically by that point, you know, we've already had the kind of the social conversation. You know, who are you? Who am I? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Where are you trying to get to? You know, those kinds of things. And so it helps me tie it all back in in, when they see, one, my passion for it, the passion is really, that's key number 2, right? And 2, when they can see it in your face that you're not just trying to sell them something. If you're trying to sell something, you're not going to sell it, because everyone, even myself, all of us included, we put up a wall when somebody tries to sell something. What we're trying to do is help them. Any good sale is really trying to help somebody get something done. And so if you hold that knowledge in your heart, it will come out in your voice when you say it.
That's so true, so true. And I think what's happening too, and listening to you, is there's this transfer of enthusiasm because it's no longer this boring compliance-related thing that you have to do, and fear-based. I have to do this, or I'm going to go to jail, or I have to do this, or I'm not sure what the consequences are going to be. It now becomes
something. Get some vacation.
Yes, you turn it into something that they want, and you're relating that back to that, whether that's a cancer surgery or a vacation, as you said. So I love that you're putting so much enthusiasm in your work. And it's also interesting that you say, too, that you've picked up, 100% of the returns you pick up, you can find something. I know that that's so hard for people to believe. Let's talk about that for a moment, because I think the key to all of this is being able to have those skills to rely on so that you can identify those savings. And you shared some numbers with me. $2.25 million you've saved your clients since July. First of all, that's awesome. Yay!
Well, I actually have an update for you. We just ran the numbers this morning, so we have new numbers for you. We are now at $3.217 million since July 15th when we started doing this. So,
wow. That is amazing. Okay, share with us, how are you tracking this? There's got to be an Excel spreadsheet somewhere.
Absolutely. Any good accountant, we have our Excel spreadsheets. So, yeah, what I really realized after going through, your education, right, after going through the CTC education, it is a very good, strong base of a system, and each CPA, I feel, needs to kind of branch it off and add the pieces that are going to make sense for them and their business. So for me, the first thing we did was build a spreadsheet so we could track who said yes to taking a plan, who said they need to think about it some more, talk to a spouse, we could follow up with them, how much are we saving them, are they a new client or a current client, so our spreadsheet, I think, has something like 35 different, columns that we're tracking for each different client.
Love that.
And that allows us to come up with our averages, So, for example, like the average plan fee for people right now is $2,571. And the average savings after their meeting is completed is $33,125. So, for me as a market, right? Yay!
That's amazing. That's like the best return ever. It's unbelievable.
$33,000 makes me very happy. So, but without that spreadsheet, being a numbers person as well as having a little bit of that sales personality, right? That bubbly, outgoing, right? The strange CPA personality. It really helps me when I'm trying to talk to people because I can give them real numbers. I'm not telling them theoretical stuff. I'm not telling them this is what I think I can do. This is my proof. This is what I can do. And this is what I've done for other people. So again, it comes back to that truth and that passion that comes out in my voice when I speak to people. This is what it is. This isn't even a question. Like, if you want to see the numbers, I can give you the numbers, So that really helps a lot because it solidifies in my own mind that I really am truly doing something good for these people. So.
Great point. I'm really glad you brought that up, and we've touched on it a couple times that you don't fit that traditional mold of CPA, and you also shared with us a really good piece of information there that you really aren't selling anything. You're helping people. Right. So I love the fact that you're able to take a tool, as simple as that is, an Excel spreadsheet with 30 some odd columns, but that tool helps to instill confidence in you. It helps to remind you of the help that you're actually rendering to people. And so for folks that are listening today, even if they may not have your sparkly personality, I think the ability to stand behind your work and have facts that support it can be so helpful. So for those of you watching today, if this is something that you're not tracking, I mean, bit of information here. Just start an Excel spreadsheet. Number one, it's going to be key to helping you track your pipeline and see what's going on right now and be able to really improve your processes over time so that you can see how those numbers change with time. And number two, we're very factual based. I mean, that's why a lot of us got into this business, is we're drawn to that. And so there's nothing better than having the facts to back you up so that you can go in with confidence to those meetings. So whether you have a big sparkly personality like Shauna or more reserved going in and more factual based, either style is going to work because all you're doing is helping people. So I love that. Those are some really good takeaways. And over $3 million in savings. Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about that. What are some of your go-to tax strategies? What are you seeing that's super common? You mentioned being able to pick up any return and identify savings. So what are you seeing out there, Shauna?
For sure. So one of the biggest things is overpaying on self-employment taxes. You see a lot of people, especially in Arizona, we have a lot of small entrepreneurs. They started small businesses out of their garage. They've been running that way for 10 years. Well, now they're making $300,000 on a Schedule C. Come on, guys, that's an easy one. That's a big one. Yeah. Other things that we see a lot of people missing are some of the smaller tweaks, a medical expense reimbursement plan, tuition reimbursement. We actually now, with the new laws where you can either get married or not get married as a gay or lesbian couple, there's a lot of planning that can be done whether you're married or not married. That's a huge area that we're actually picking up a lot of new clients coming in with that because their CPAs don't know about it, don't understand how to use it. Corporate structure, so an S Corp versus a C Corp versus a partnership, and why would you use one over the other? Those are probably, if I'm thinking about the main ones, and of course retirement. That one's kind of a big one. Roth, I mean, the amount of money, people don't really realize the amount of money that it's going to save them if they go Roth. And of course, that's our knowledge as it is now. You always have to throw in the caveat, but for me, one of the good things about all of these various ideas, it's also, I have a staff of 15 here, and my staff is not, you were talking about personality, my staff is certainly not my personality. That's why they're my staff, and I love them. But they have overheard me using these ideas with people. They have read every single plan that has gone out, because I want them to learn too. They are now selling ideas to clients that haven't even talked to me yet. And so, sorry to jump back to the spreadsheet, but them knowing those numbers helps them too, right? So them knowing the ideas, it's kind of like a flourishing in the entire office. I feel like we're going through a renaissance over here. So it's awesome. So
yeah, actually that renaissance is a really good way to describe it, I think. Being able to convert your business this way not only allows you to charge premium fees, you're doing a lot more to help people and really changing the level of service. And I appreciate that so much about what you're doing, Shauna, because what we're doing as certified tax planners is we're raising the bar in terms of the level of service that we're delivering to small businesses. And being aware, knowing how much you're contributing to that by tracking over $3 million in savings, having your staff understand that that's what your unique selling proposition is, and having them be able to talk about what you do that's important to people is all helping with that movement. That's just amazing.
Rocking business in Arizona.
Yes, awesome. Now, you also shared with me, and I'm assuming you'll have an update because you have this wonderful spreadsheet, but you shared with me generating $50,000 in new business in 90 days just since getting certified. So first of all, do we need to update that number?
We do need to update that number. As of this morning, we're now at $89,665 since July 15th.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's so amazing.
Thank you. I have effectively by myself, at the moment I'm the only CTC person in this office, but I've effectively by myself brought in 1/3 of a year's worth of tax revenue by myself.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. And I'm assuming that the numbers and the proportions really change as you get into more premium fees, because to bring in 1/3 of the tax revenue in a firm that has 15 staff, you're talking about a lot of work using the traditional billing method. But when you get into premium fees, that allows you to ramp up much more quickly and get close to $90,000 in new revenue. You go, girl.
I bet. I'm pretty happy.
That's awesome. Now, let's talk a bit about where are you finding this new business. So, was some of this new revenue from existing clients that you had? Is this all from new business? Share with us, where are you finding this new business?
For sure. So having that little bit of sales background, right, it's always cheaper and easier to go after your current clients than it is to go after new clients. Plain and simple, right? So out of the plans that we've sold, there's only been about 5 of them that are new, and the rest were all current clients. Now, the cool part about the new ones is that with our current clients, once we finished the plan, we offered each one of them $100 in cash for any referral that they brought to us that actually signed up for a plan, did a plan. All 5 of those no referrals are from that. So it really wasn't even, cost of going out or networking or advertising or any of that kind of thing. I mean, yes, it was $100 cash out of my pocket, but I'm okay with that. It's okay.
Now, okay, so here's the fear. The fear is that this is a kind of a new service, something that you weren't selling for these types of fees in the past.
I was terrified the first day I even thought about doing it. The first one, I was shaking in my boots, terrified. And when I told the client, I think the very first one was $46,000 in a 1-hour meeting, and I went, done, sold. She wrote me a check. We were good. So, sorry.
No, I would like to talk more about that fear. What were your concerns initially?
For sure. The biggest one, and it was me, it was all of my staff, well, why would the clients not say, well, why didn't you do this? Why haven't you been doing this? Why, if you have all this great knowledge, I mean, so you've been holding out on me? Are they going to react that way? And honestly, by going through the CTC, I had the perfect excuse, which was 100% true. Listen, yes, I had some of this knowledge. I did not have all of it. I had some of it. However, it's the question of how do we implement the knowledge, right? You've never paid me before to sit and look at your stuff and do just you, right? You've paid me to do the data entry stuff that you've always paid me to do, right? But you've never paid me to sit and look and think and ponder, and that's what you're paying me for.
Yeah.
And to be flat out honest, not a single person has even asked me that question that I was terrified about. Not one.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I do, just speaking from experience, it is more of an internal struggle that we have because we're so worried about what the reaction is going to be from people, and yet it doesn't really materialize. This is something that I've been doing for almost a decade, positioning myself this way, and I can count on one hand the number of existing clients that have questioned that. And even then, like you said, there is a reasonable explanation because it's a very different discipline that you're now applying in your practice. So thanks for putting that to bed. That's a really big one for people. And I know that you'll join me in saying this to viewers, is that if you have this fear, don't let that hold you back, because even just strictly from an ethics perspective, this is what I like to tell newly certified tax planners is just from an ethics perspective, once you know how to do this, it's like you have an ethical obligation to bring this to your clients, because while they may not have been able to say that in the past in terms of, this is something that I knew and I was holding out, you couldn't honestly say that. You're saying, hey, I know some new information now, but now you do know it. And so you really do have an obligation to bring this to people. And then if you're going to do that, why not get paid really well for it?
Absolutely. And now you have a system. Oh, sorry, I was going to say now you have a system to do that with. I think that was because the thought had crossed my mind. It really honestly had crossed my mind about 3 years ago, going, you know what, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be, right? I feel like I'm a rat on a wheel just doing the same thing every year, right? And when I was introduced to your system, I was like, got it. The woman is brilliant. I'm all over it. Let's go. Like, this is the system. This is how you do it. Get it in place. Get it implemented. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It took me about 3 months to really get the thing rocking and rolling. You saw 50,000 from July until I think we talked maybe September, and effectively another 40,000 from September until now. It's picking up in speed. So it clearly took a little bit of time to kind of get the system in there, but I promise you, you sell one plan, and your brain will go, yeah, I'll build the system for the $4,000 plan somebody just wrote me a check for. Sounds great. It won't be this hesitation anymore. You can just go and be free and do what you have to do for your clients, and you'll be a rock star for it. So
I love that concept of being free too, because I think so often we're so tied to the clock. We're clock watchers. And that's because we've built a lifetime in our career of trading time for dollars.
That's how we've been trained. We were little CPAs.
Yes. And what that does, I know for me as a professional, is it helps me to be a much better service provider when I can disconnect myself from the clock. When it really doesn't matter how long something takes me, I can now afford to deliver the kind of service that my clients really deserve. And in fact, it's what they really want too. So that's really incredible. Now, I want to talk about your book, because you just came out with this incredible book. I don't even know how you had the time to put this together. You're blowing my mind here. You're like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep pulling out all these surprises.
The goods and the bads. I'm one of those people that just can't sit still. So, so just came out with Tax Goddess Guides, but it's Tax Goddess Guides to Starting Your Own Business. How I came up with it, so it's a very short story, let's put it that way. I went up north into Prescott, Arizona, and ended up getting trapped in a cabin for 3 days. And while I was there, I said, I keep getting asked the same questions over and over and over again by my clients. I'm just going to write a little pamphlet, 10, 15, 20 pages, just, basic questions, whatever. Yeah, so 3 days later, I had over 600 pages of little random questions that I kept getting asked over and over and over again. And thank goodness for editors, because I promise the book is not 600 pages long. So handed it over to the editors, and they told me that actually it's kind of nice the way it's written, because many tax books, like you'd expect to pick up a tax book and it's going to talk code, right? It's going to be very dry and it's going to talk code, all the stuff we all studied in school, right? It's very dry. So apparently the way that I type is the way that I speak, which isn't quite so dry. So they were happy with it. They cut it down to, I think it's about 300 pages now. And so we launched that in June, I believe.
And what's the reaction from your clients been? Is this something that you've got positioned in your lobby? How have you communicated with clients that you've got the book available?
For sure. So we did have a launch party when it first came out, and so far this year we've sold a little over 1,200 copies, which is not bad. It's more than all of our clients, so that works. But most of our clients really, I've actually got it positioned on my desk, and so most of our clients, when they come in, they kind of, oh, well, what's that? Did you write that? What's that about? You know, and so we start talking about the book, and, you know, as I said, we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs here, you know, and they're starting a small business. I mean, that's why I wrote the book. So many of them will purchase a copy, and then we get a phone call, well, I need a couple more copies for my friend Bob and you know, his wife Mary, and, you know, so it's definitely been kind of like a viral spread of book sales, so.
Very, very good. And yet another way that you are distinguishing yourself and setting yourself apart from everybody else, and raising your credibility up to expert status so that you can get in those premium fees. Now, I wanted to talk with you before we let you go. One last thing I want to cover is talking about the concept of maintenance plans. And, you know, this is a hallmark of the CTC program, but converting your billing practices in your firm to get away from hourly billing, more into value-based billing, and having that billing take place evenly throughout the year so that you're no longer tied to getting paid for the efforts that you're putting in. And I know that you've just launched a campaign for this, and would love to hear a little bit more about that process. Tell us, you just kind of sent out this announcement. How did you talk to your clients about converting them?
For sure. So once I realized that we were going to actually proceed with this, right, which was probably about August, that's when I really kind of made the decision, this is the way I want to go, that's what we're doing. So I realized that there were two different paths that our clients were going to get on a flat monthly maintenance program. One was with the CTC itself. So once we had finished writing the cover letter and putting together, putting together the booklet for the plan, for anyone that had a CTC plan, we included the monthly maintenance if we were going to do everything. So we presented it as one price. You know, if we're going to do your books, your payroll, your tax return, all your meetings, all your emails, all your phone calls, you know, everything, this is your price per month. Now, with the people that have then come in for their plan, they've signed, they've finished their plan, it's been delivered, every single one of those people accepted the plan as it was. And, you know, the really nice part about that is our fees effectively tripled over what they would have been if we were under the old method. So, you know, anyone with a CTC plan, I mean, that thing is solid gold, I'll tell you. Now, with our other clients, you know, we have not had a chance to get everyone in here for CTC plans, which, by the way, we have people fighting for appointments in February at this point, which is awesome. So thank you, Dominique. I'm not quite at your 2-year waiting list, but I'm getting there. So
we're getting
working on it. But with our other clients, the ones that have not yet had a chance to come in for the plan, we did change our billing cycle so that it started November 1st. And on December 1st, so yesterday, we sent out a letter to each one of those clients saying, okay, you know, we're trying to be good CPAs, and you have all of this terrible stuff happening to you with the ACA Act and all these other things that are coming down the pipeline. So we've taken your fees from last year. We've added 7% because now we're including phone calls, emails, meetings, all that kind of stuff. We've added $19 a month for the ACA work that is coming down the pipeline that the IRS has told us that we're going to have to do. And then we're giving you a 2-month discount for November and December because we want to give you money for the holidays. So your fees, if you opt in by December 15th, will only start on January 1st. So we're excited to see, you know, the other CPAs that have done this, that I've spoken to, have said that their return rates on those letters to get the opt-in discount are almost 85 to 90%. And any clients that we don't get the letters back from will get a personal phone call from Little Miss Bubbly Me, and I have no doubt that we're going to get everyone on board. So
that's amazing. And in the end, you shared with us, you know, tripling fees. What will the end result be, even after comping a couple of free months to get as an incentive to get people to opt into your new program?
You got it. So at the first year, when we ran the calculations comping the 2 months, we would still receive, I think it's about a 7% increase over the total year's fees from this year, you know, from 2014. And then, of course, in years going forward, it goes up almost 22%.
Awesome. And that is
clients, so
your bottom line. That's
yes,
awesome.
Yes, all in my bottom line, which is very good. And I'm very happy and can't wait to start spoiling my staff even more. So.
That's awesome, Shauna. Well, I just want to thank you today. You shared so many pieces of wisdom. I'm not sure how I'm going to summarize this conversation down into anything less than a book.
Oh, love and passion. That's what it's about. Do what you love, and it will all come to you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing all of your ideas, your time, and thank you so much for all of your success. Congratulations. Very, very well deserved. I know you're going to have a really good holiday season this year, and I can't wait to hear about your opt-in rates on your new monthly billing program. So you'll have to keep me updated from the spreadsheet when you get the numbers back.
I will. And thank you, Dominique, for putting together such an amazing program, because really this program has been life-altering for me, and I couldn't have done it. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so pleased to be a part of your journey. Thank you so much. Scott, do we have any questions that we can handle?
No, there's no questions right now, but I think what you guys have covered just goes back to like how different. It seems like a completely different business from being just a CPA accountant to doing tax planning. So it makes sense, everything that you're saying. I think it's, any small business, I think about our small business and how we would benefit, and hopefully the accountant we're using is doing something like what you guys are doing, because they need to be. That's great.
I was going to say, if they're not, you know where to find us.
I know, right? I don't know. We have to wait on that 2-year waiting list, Dominique. I'm not sure if, we can wait 2 years.
I believe that Shauna can get you in the next 2 weeks, right, Shauna?
February, you got it.
Well, Scott, thanks for moderating today. Shauna, have a wonderful day. Thank you again for sharing a bit of your selves with us this morning, and I look forward to hearing some updates from you.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and we'll be back next month for more CPA business breakthroughs. Take care, everyone.